Get motivated, creative, and believe that you can achieve whatever your goals may be. Join me, Karen Kelly, each Tuesday for Authors and More, with amazing guests sharing their journey to help get you where you need to be. Hello everybody and welcome to Authors and More. It's been a few weeks but I'm really excited to be back, and I've got a fabulous guest today and he really does deserve a massive introduction. I have Dr. Tony Redmond Obe. He's a professor. He's the world leading specialist in emergency medicine. He's the founder of UK Med, which is a charity coordinating the provisions of health workers to international crisis, and has led medical teams to sudden onset disasters, complex emergencies and conflicts for over 25 years. He was also appointed the medical director of the NHS Nightingale during the COVID crisis, and is recently an author of a book called Frontline, which comes out in a couple of days. So I'd love to welcome Dr. Professor Tony Redmond, OBE. Wow, Tony, that's an introduction.
Isn't it just?
It really is. That's a lot to live up to, isn't it? Oh, wow. Congratulations on everything that you do. It's a hell of a CV. And also congratulations on your book, Frontline.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Frontline comes out in 2 days, I believe, on the 16th of September.
Comes out on the 16th, yes.
Wow, a little bit nervous, I reckon, then, are you?
Yes, I am. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I've written lots of medical papers. I've written medical textbooks. But this is very different. This is a personal account of my work in wars and in sudden onset disasters, and also disease outbreaks over quite a few years now.
I can imagine. So let's go back to the beginning where it all started, because you were a medic, weren't you? And then you were an A&E doctor, and you created a company called Smart. So let's talk about the early days.
Yeah, I went to medical school in Manchester, here in England, and was very interested in the management of emergencies and severe injuries. In the UK then, we had a very new specialty, which we called accident and emergency medicine. And I was one of the first qualified physicians to train in that specialty. And also, I spent a short time in the States, part of my training, worked in the Medical College of Virginia in Richmond, and was very interested in the development of paramedics. I worked with the Tuckahoe Rescue Squad, I remember, in the States. And then when I got back to the UK, we started developing pre-hospital care. And I set up the South Manchester Accident Rescue Team, which was volunteers, physicians, surgeons, nurses, who would go out and support the emergency services when there was very bad road traffic crash, for instance, to go and provide support at the scene. I've operated on people in their cars at the scenes of accidents, and we quickly got quite a name for ourselves as we promoted the development of pre-hospital care. And then in 1988, there was a huge earthquake in Armenia, in what was then the Soviet Union. And the British government asked us, would we take our team as part of the international response to the earthquake, which we did. And it was life-changing for me, really. I'd never experienced anything on that scale. I realized we really needed to up our game if we were going to do it. But on the way home, I was diverted to Lockerbie for Pan Am 103.
Wow, that was 1998, wasn't it, Lockerbie?
No, 88.
88, Lockerbie. There's quite a few disasters consecutively, wasn't there, in that year?
There were all around that time. So in that 1 month in December, I'd been to one of the biggest sudden onset disasters of the 20th century. And then on the way home to the biggest terrorist attack in the UK at that time.
Yeah.
So
And of course, we all
it,
we all remember Lockerbie, don't we? Which was
yeah,
absolutely, it was just, I mean, if any crisis is devastating, but Lockerbie really did touch home. It was Christmas time. I mean, what
it
was it
was.
like for you to be one of the first on the scenes? I mean, where do you begin?
Well, with all these things, I mean, we were used to dealing with major incidents. The team was well trained. You coordinate what you do with the police and the fire service and the ambulance service, and you just start. And
Yeah, you just
we
kind
had
of get the
to
job done.
we had to get the job done. We had to identify all the injured, and unfortunately, the death toll was extremely high, as you would expect from that sort of event. But it made me think. I mean, it had a profound effect on me, and I thought maybe this was all too much. It wasn't for me. I should just work in an emergency department. But for better or for worse, I made the decision that if I was going to do this, I'd have to make it my life's work. So I did. And then
Yeah, and you,
we, sorry,
no, I was going to say, you created UK Med, didn't you? The charity. Tell us
I
about
did then.
that.
So we had the South Manchester Accident Rescue Team, which was a charity, but a small charity, just working um, around the Manchester area. But then, as we expanded, we went to earthquakes in Iran, and after the first Gulf War, we set up a tented field hospital on the Iran-Iraq border on the mountains to deal with all the
Wow.
refugees. And then, when the war in Bosnia happened, I was seconded from my role in the NHS, and by then I was also working in university. Um, the government asked for me to be seconded to work in Sarajevo, which I did for the whole of the war. And that's when I set up UK Med, because we needed to draw from across the whole of the UK. We had rolling
Yeah.
teams going into Sarajevo, and then I worked for the World Health Organization. I worked in Belgrade. I worked across Macedonia, Croatia, and then moved. I worked a little bit in Kosovo at the start of the war, but then after the war in Bosnia, after the final ceasefire, I then moved to work in Kosovo. When NATO went in, I was asked to go in and to head up the hospital, to try and get the hospital in Pristina going again. So I ended up working in the Balkans then until the end of 2000. I did some other work as well for the UN. I went to the civil war in Sierra Leone on behalf of the UN, uh, which was quite dangerous at the time, but to try and improve the aid packages that were going on. I even took time out to go to an active volcano on behalf
Wow.
of the
So you've put
UN
your
to
life
assess.
really on the line, haven't you? You must have been, dangerous for you and your team going into such an environment
It
like that
was,
in all the different countries that you've been to.
yeah, but always dangerous. The most dangerous was working in Sarajevo. The snipers were very active. I was once on a balcony. I thought it was quiet, and I was talking to a colleague, and they machine gunned the balcony just in front of us. I mean, they could have. I mean, they could have killed us, but I think they were just
Yeah, you
showing
could have
us what
lost
they
your
could
life.
have. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they were just showing this what we could do. I once um, was going to the car, and I heard this just over my head, just this whistle, and then it hit the roof of the car. Just so, I,
Very
so
lucky.
I've had some very lucky escapes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was in
So
one
talking about
earthquake.
you,
Sorry, go
no,
on.
it's okay. So talking about UK Med, so was that 1995 when that began?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I can't imagine what it's like to prepare a team to go out to these emergency to do these emergency missions. So how long does it take from the onset, say, of an earthquake or a volcanic eruption, to you getting a team together and then them actually arriving on that scene?
Well,
Must be
we're
a
on
hell of a
12
lot of
hours notice.
preparation for that.
Well, we do all that beforehand. So we have an on-call team, and they're on call for 6 weeks. And during that 6 weeks period, they have to be ready to 12 hours notice to move. So they have a bag packed, have everything there. They get the call, and they've got to be at the airhead within 12 hours, and then we go. How long it takes then to start work? Well, we try and start work within 24 to 36 hours. Sometimes transport can be difficult. Airports get blocked. At the typhoon in the Philippines that we went to a few years ago, we got into country okay. The flights were okay, but getting out to the earthquake area, to the typhoon and damaged area was difficult because all the trees get blown down, so the roads are
Yeah.
blocked. So then there happened to be a British warship in the area. So they picked us up and they
Oh,
took us out into the South
fantastic.
China Sea, and they had a helicopter. So they would helicopter us into all the islands. So we did it. So we just went around all the islands in the South China Sea, doing clinics and treating the wounds, and going from one to another.
I mean, it must be an incredible role to do and so rewarding, but I can imagine it does have long lasting effects on you. So, some of the things that you've seen, obviously, lots of deaths in a crisis like that, it must have a long term effect on you and your colleagues.
Yes, 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 it does. We select our teams very carefully. So when so we only take people who are well established in their careers. It's not for junior, younger nurses and doctors to
No.
do. It's not something to gain the experience. You've got to be experienced and completed all your specialist training. Then we do adaptation training, so how you will adapt those skills to the difficult environment. And then we do mock deployments. That's how we train, how we will work together, and that does prepare people. And then we do debrief people well afterwards. So they are distressing, but you also see effective people who respond so well. It's actually quite uplifting to see how much people will give of themselves and how resilient they are. The biggest effects on me have been physical. I I got poisoning with heavy metals, including uranium, when I was working in Kosovo.
So, how
I
did
was
that
running
happen?
on.
How did that come about, the poisoning?
Well, we don't know.
Right.
It's possible that it was deliberate because there were people there who didn't want the international community there, and I've been targeted a few times over the years because when you work in conflicts, I mean, I'm quite neutral, but people don't sometimes want internationals there, even though you're working on behalf of the UN or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
possible that it was deliberate, but it made me very ill. I had to give up work for a while, and then I had to have chelation therapy to uh, to take all the heavy metals out of my blood, which weakened my bones. And then I went on treatment for that. But when I was in the Philippines, my bones were still thin, and the boat I was in crashed, and I broke my back, and
Gracious.
that's
So,
left
you've been
me,
poisoned and you broke your back at the
yeah,
same time.
and it so that's left me with some difficulties in standing and walking. I walk with a stick because I still work, but it's
Yeah.
so it's me. It's been the physical effects more than anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're just going to go to a commercial break now, Tony, and we'll be back in a few minutes and we'll talk about your book, Frontline.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tracy McDonough, owner and founder of Healing Moments. Healing Moments is a healing playroom, a mind, body, spirit center. Our service is love and compassion, and the environment is soothing, peaceful, and inviting. Every area is designed for healing and peace. We deliver services such as massage therapy or lymphatic drainage, energy healing and Reiki, chakra balancing, physical vascular therapy for circulation and pain, vibrational medicine using frequencies and oils, and music in order to calm and relax your mind, body, and spirit. We also offer detoxification services using infrared sauna, ionic foot baths, and power plates. All of our modalities are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, induce relaxation, relieve pain, and provide detoxification and inflammation reduction for optimal healing and wellness.
TV, the first and only internet production company that's truly plugged in. When you're looking for a full-service internet radio, TV production company, discover AMP2 TV. AMP2 TV is a full-service media company that can provide all streaming videos, video studios, radio studios, and television studios that will set the venue for any media application. We offer remote services as a radio or TV production and continue to grow new venues to bring your ideas to life. We also specialize in video and photo content for social media. Call us today at 866-224-5422, for no business is too small to grow to be accounted. It's time for your message to be seen. Let AMP2 TV help get you there.
AMP Media Productions and WNN Money Talk Radio have been in conjoint business for 10 years. They've been working around the clock nonstop to promote over 500 shows and businesses with added platforms such as social media live streaming, podcasts, and the specialty of live radio. To amplify your impact and start your show today, contact AMP Media Productions at 866-224-5422.
Hi guys, welcome back to Authors and More, where I'm talking to Dr. Tony Redmond OBE. So I'd like to welcome back Tony Redmond.
Hi.
Hi Tony. So let's take a look at your fabulous book. Can you hold it up for our audience? So this is Frontline, Saving Lives in War, Disaster and Disease. I can't wait to come along to the reading in a few weeks' time. I think it's next week, isn't it? And hear all about it. So what was the inspiration behind the book? Obviously, you've had this vast career. It's been incredible. But there is like quite a sad story behind it, the reason why you started to write, isn't there?
Well, the original impetus was I wanted to write it for my children. They asked about it. But a few years ago, I was about to go to Mongolia to on behalf of the UN. There was a long-standing problem that there'd been blizzards, there'd been a drought, and they needed to do an assessment of the health needs. But they moved the date of the trip, and I was already committed to going to Kenya following the Nairobi bombing. So I had to go there, and somebody else took my place, and they to go to Mongolia, and the UN helicopter crashed, and they were killed.
Oh, gracious! That's terrible.
And when I looked at the news during the days that followed, it just wasn't mentioned at all. All the work and that sacrifice, and the other people on the team I knew well. I trained with them, so I felt that the work ought to be recorded. I thought people ought to understand that there's a lot of people doing an awful lot of good work and making huge sacrifices to help
putting their lives on the line.
Absolutely, who are in absolute dire need. And then my children, they're all grown up now, but they wanted to know more about it and what I'd done. And I've got grandchildren now, and I wanted to be able to tell the grandchildren about the work. So I started going through my papers. I'd started after that terrible helicopter crash to sort of get all the papers together. And then,
I mean, that must have been really difficult for you as well. Sorry to interrupt you, Tony, but really difficult knowing that you should have been on that flight. And the whole family's affected. So I know obviously you were okay, you weren't on the flight, but it's still going to affect you really deeply, and all the families involved as well.
Yes, you just feel so guilty. That, and played it round and round in my head. Should I have not? I mean, I had commitments, equally important commitments, to go to Nairobi after the bombing. So yes, I feel bad about it, and yet I feel equally that I was very lucky to
Yeah,
escape. But it did make me realise how close to the edge this work takes
yeah.
you.
And how fragile your lives are doing that role.
Absolutely. So I wanted to put it all in context, and also for people to see that what you might see on the television after a disaster, and you see teams out there, that's the tip of the iceberg. There's an enormous amount of work being done. People are working all the time. They're training, and also working in their home countries, and all the experience that you gain overseas, you bring back to your own country as well. So
Yeah,
when COVID struck, we as an organisation, UK Med, we've been dealing with dangerous infectious diseases for many a year. Dealt with Ebola in Sierra
Ebola, yeah.
Leone. We also dealt with it in the DRC, the diphtheria outbreak with the Rohingya, the measles outbreak in Samoa. We have teams all over, and we could bring that experience back
Yeah,
here
back
to
home.
the UK. Yeah, and so
So tell us
again, I
about the
wanted.
UK medical role, Tony, at the Nightingale as well. I mean, you must have been honoured to be offered that role. I know
I
it's a
was
difficult job.
particularly in my hometown. They when
Yeah,
when when the COVID pandemic started, it was unclear whether the National Health Service here would be able to cope with the
yeah,
number of ill patients. And so a contingency plan was to have these pop-up hospitals around the country that could take some of the patients in the hospitals just
pressure.
didn't have the room for them. The issue with that, of course, is that they wouldn't provide the same level of care as a main hospital, but it might be if the situation demanded it, that's what would have to be. In fact, the NHS was able to cope by stopping doing everything else, essentially, and
Yeah,
so we had to build a hospital. We opened it. We opened a 600-bedded hospital in 2 weeks. It was an old railway station that had become a conference centre, and then we just converted it. We worked with the army, the same people we'd worked with in Sierra Leone, and we set it up. And in this work, you have to adapt. You have to move forwards. General Colin Powell has his 70-40 rule. If you want to respond to emergencies effectively, you need about 40% of the information you would like in order to do it safely. But if you wait for any more than 70% of what you need, it's too late. Events have just unfolded.
yeah.
So
You
you
need to
have
get
to
yourself
take a
there, don't
chance.
you?
You have
Yeah,
to take a chance, but have no regrets, and then change what you do. So we we set up the hospital ready to take really quite ill patients. And by the time we opened, we realised the health service could cope with that. What we needed to do was decompress the acute hospitals. So people who'd been on intensive care but were not well enough to go home, we could take them to free up
you take
more
those
beds.
in. Yeah.
So that's what we did.
In
And it
2 weeks,
worked
that's
in 2 weeks.
phenomenal, isn't it? Gracious. So what
It
did
was a
that involve?
huge, well, we had, there was the physical aspect of the engineers coming in and converting it and bringing oxygen in. And from a medical point of view, we had to recruit and train staff. So we
Staff as well.
recruited and trained 600 staff in 2 weeks,
In two
and had
weeks,
a
wow.
full team. And but again, people really step up to these crises.
Yeah, we're
It
resilient,
was
really, aren't we? We kind of get
We're
on with the job, don't
resilient,
we?
and people get on with it, and people wanted to help. And we had lots of volunteers come forward. Interestingly, lots of our healthcare assistants were flight attendants
Oh,
who, of
really?
course, the planes weren't flying. Yeah, planes weren't flying. And so
Yeah.
trained in first aid, very professional. So
Totally, yeah.
so we took a lot of those on who could act as healthcare assistants. They were brilliant.
Yeah,
We had
brilliant.
people who were in healthcare but wouldn't normally be in an acute setting. We had dentists, eye surgeons. We could train them to do the
We're all
basic
used to that patient
care.
care, aren't they?
But they were
thing.
used to dealing with
Yeah.
patients, and and we knew they'd be professional and they would
Yeah.
step
Yeah.
up to the job well. So,
Tony, can you believe that we're almost running out of time? Almost running out of time. I could talk about this all day. Before we go, can we just take one more look at your fabulous book, Frontlines,
Yes, of
for
course.
our audience? Wonderful. This is Frontline, Saving Lives in War, Disaster and Disease. So, Tony, where can we purchase this book? It's out on Thursday.
Yes,
it's out
all
on
good
Thursday.
bookshops, as they say.
Yeah, hardback, ebook, and audio. Sorry, say again. Which shops can we buy it from?
Well, all good bookshops, but it's available on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. Waterstones online. It's widely available online.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, I'm sure we're going to hear more from you, Tony. But it's been fabulous talking to you today. I wish you all the best with the book, and I look forward to your reading next week. But I wish you all the very best for the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care. Oh, that was Dr. Tony Redmond. What a fantastic chat, and what a phenomenal CV. I can't get the words out today. What a great CV he's got. Oh, well, thank you guys. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to chatting to you next week. Take care. Be inspired. Get motivated. Creative. And believe that you can achieve whatever your goals may be. Join me, Karen Kelly, each Tuesday for Authors and More, with amazing guests sharing their journey to help get you where you need to be.